Hello everyone, welcome to Vishesh Educational Videos. So in this video I am explaining methods for handling the deadlock. There are 4 methods for handling the deadlock. Here I am discussing the first method, deadlock prevention. If you are not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. To get the notification of my new videos, please click the bell icon and please share the video. So let me begin the explanation of methods for handling deadlock. So there are 4 methods for handling deadlock. So first is a deadlock prevention, second is a deadlock avoidance, third is a deadlock detection, and fourth is a deadlock recovery. So in this video I am explaining the first method, deadlock prevention. So here the first two methods, deadlock prevention and deadlock avoidance, is like a taking a medicine before the disease. That means here these two methods mainly concentrate on avoiding the deadlock. That means we have to prevent the disease beginning only. That like that here we have to prevent the deadlock right in the initial stage itself. So these two methods is for preventing the deadlock. And this third method and fourth method, deadlock detection and deadlock recovery, right? This is like taking the medicine after the disease. So disease is already there. Now I am taking the medicine. That means deadlock is already happened. Now how I can overcome that? So these two methods, deadlock detection and deadlock recovery, is based on that. So getting guys? So deadlock prevention and deadlock avoidance is like taking a precautionary measures before the disease only. So I'm trying to avoid the deadlock before only. So but this third method and the fourth method is like that. So I'm taking a medicine after the disease. That means deadlock is already happened. Now I'm trying to overcome the deadlock. So in this video I'm explaining the deadlock prevention. How to prevent the deadlock from happening, right? So see here. So for deadlock to happen, these 4 conditions, mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption, and circular wait, all these conditions should occur simultaneously for deadlock to happen. So if you want to know more about these 4 conditions, you can refer my video. The link is in the description, right? So here, when all these 4 conditions occur simultaneously, deadlock may happen. So if you avoid any one of these conditions from happening, either I can avoid mutual exclusion, or I can avoid hold and wait, or I can avoid no prevention, or I can avoid circular wait. If any of this condition is avoided, then I can prevent the deadlock from happening. Getting guys? So if all these 4 conditions occur simultaneously, I can tell that deadlock may happen. So if I avoid any one of these conditions from happening simultaneously, then I can prevent the deadlock. Now we will check that. So first I will take up the mutual exclusion. So mutual exclusion means here a process can use only one resource at a time. Mutual exclusion tells that a process can use only one resource at a time. Here resources are non-shareable. That means here I can't share a resource among different processes simultaneously. Only one process should use the resource at a time. I can't share my resource between the processes simultaneously. Now you can ask a question, then what happens if we allow the resources to be shared? So if we allow the resources to be shared among the multiple processes, that it can produce wrong result. So if we allow the resources to be shared among the different processes, it can produce a wrong result. You can see here, for example, if we share a printer among 2 processes, here I am considering processes P1 and P2. Now if I share the printer among these 2 processes, then the output of the printer can be a combination of the output from both the processes, because the output is different, the P1 output is different and the P2 output is different. When I share the printer between these two processes, the output from both the processes can be mixed, but it should not be like that, right? So the output from the P1 process should be separate, the output from the P2 process should be separate. But if we share the printer, the output may be mixed. So this is a wrong result. So if I share the resources, you can see there, so it can produce a wrong result. So to avoid the mutual exclusion, what we have to do? So mutual exclusion, what it tells, a process can use only one resource at a time. But now, to avoid the mutual exclusion, what I should do? I should allow the process to share the resources. But if I do that, what is the problem? The wrong result will be produced. So to avoid the mutual exclusion, we need to share the resources. To avoid the mutual exclusion, we need to share the resource. But practically it is impossible, you know that. If we share, then we get a wrong result. So practically it is impossible to share the resources. To remove the mutual exclusion, we have to share the resources, but it is impossible. So you can see here, it is not possible to eliminate the mutual exclusion. So it is not possible to eliminate the mutual exclusion. To eliminate the mutual exclusion, I have to share the resources between different processes. But if I do like that, it will produce a wrong result, and it is actually impossible to do that, to share the resource between the different processes. So I can't avoid, I can't eliminate mutual exclusion. So for deadlock to happen, I have to eliminate any one of these four conditions. So here you can see mutual exclusion can't be eliminated. So if you are not possible to eliminate mutual exclusion, means deadlock may not be avoided, deadlock may not be prevented. So instead of mutual exclusion, now I have to check whether I have to eliminate hold and wait, no preemption, or a circular wait, right? So now I will take up hold and wait, whether it is possible to prevent hold and wait or not. See, right? So what is hold and wait? A process is holding a resource. Actually, a process is already holding a resource, but it is waiting for another resources. So process is holding a resource, already process is having a resource, but it is waiting for the resources from another processes. See, so here this is the example for hold and wait. Here P1 is already holding the resource R1, but it's waiting for the resource R2. P2 is already holding the resource R2, but it's waiting for the resource R1. So this is hold and wait, right? Now I can right, so I can eliminate this. I can eliminate hold and wait. How it is? See here. So to eliminate hold and wait, we have two approaches. So we have two approaches. The first approach is, a process can request for a resource. A process can request for a resource only when the process is holding no resource. That means for a process to request a resource, it should not hold any resources. Here, so for P1 to request R2, it should not hold R1. Then only P1 can request R2. Right? So if we do like this, here you can see here, I am removing the holding. I am removing the holding because here for a process to request a resource, it should not hold any other resources. Then only it can request for the resource. See, what I am doing here, I am removing the holding. Only waiting is here. Process can only wait for the resource. It should not hold any resource. So if you do like this, I can remove the holding, then obviously hold and wait can be eliminated. This is the first method. So a process can request for a resource only when the process is holding no resources. Right guys? So what is the second method to eliminate hold and wait? Here, if a process needs a resource, a process has to send request for all the resources. That means let us assume process requires 6 resources. How many resources? Process requires 6 resources to complete its execution. But so now for the process to start, and complete its execution, so process needs all the 6 resources initially. Understanding, guys? So process has to start the execution only after acquiring all the resources. All the 6 resources needs to be acquired initially only. Then it can start the execution. Obviously here, see here, waiting is removed here because all the resources is holded in the initial step only. See, so in this way I can remove hold and wait. Getting, guys? But the second approach is have some disadvantages. What is that? So the second approach obviously suffers from poor resource utilization. Why? See, for example, here you need all the 6 resources in the beginning itself. For example, in this 6 resources, printer may be a one resource, right? So when you need the printer is required right in the last step to get the printout, but you are holding the printer beginning itself. That means you are wasting the printer because you need the printer at the final step, but you are holding the printer from the first step itself. It is poor resource utilization because this printer resource may be needed by the another process, right? It may be needed by the another process, but what you are doing, but you are holding it. You need it in the final step, but you are holding it from the holding it from the beginning. So this is nothing but a poor resource utilization. If any other process wants to use that printer, it can't use it. And what is the second disadvantage? Starvation. Starvation means what? See here. So this process is acquired all the 6 resources, right, in the beginning itself, but the printer is needed by the another resource, right? Immediately the other process needs the printer, but what you are doing, you are not releasing that printer to the resource that is in the, to the process that is needed. No, you are holding it. So here that process that is needed, the printer, will suffer from starvation. It keeps on waiting. It keeps on waiting for the printer resource. Even if it's free, you can't allocate it, right? Because it is holded by the another process. So this is the problem. So process suffers from starvation. It keeps on waiting. Getting, guys? So you can eliminate hold and wait using these two approaches. So either you have to allocate the resource only when the process is holding no resource. Here holding is removed, and in the second step process has to request all the resource in the beginning itself. Here no waiting will be there because all the resources are acquired in the initial step only. So you are removing wait here. So if you remove any one of these, obviously deadlock will be prevented. Getting, guys? So we can eliminate hold and wait. In the first process I removed eliminated hold. In the second process I removed the wait. So you can see that we can eliminate the hold and wait. So far you have seen that mutual exclusion can't be eliminated because I can't share the resources simultaneously if it is not impossible. It's not possible. That's why mutual exclusion can't be eliminated. But you can see there hold and wait can be eliminated. So for deadlock to be prevented, you have to eliminate any one of this. Either you can eliminate hold and wait, or no preemption, or mutual exclusion, or circular wait. So you can see there hold and wait can be eliminated. Now we will check for the next condition whether it can be eliminated or not. So what is no preemption? So no preemption means a process can't release its resource until it finishes the execution. So that means if you want to use that resource in the middle of the right? In the middle of the execution, it is not possible. A process has to release the resource voluntarily only after the completion of its execution. In the middle you can't right, in the middle you can't release the resource. There is no preemption. You can't release the resource until it finishes the execution. A process finishes the execution. So here I'm considering two cases here. Let me check whether the no preemption can be eliminated or not. See here. Here you can see here the process PI is requesting the resource RJ. Yeah, the process PI is requesting the resource RJ, but RJ is allocated to PJ. So RJ is allocated to PJ, but process PI is requesting the RJ. But now what I can do means I can I can forcibly stop the process PI, and I can allocate the resources of the PI to other processes. Because so PI, now I can't allocate PJ, now I can't allocate RJ to process PI because RJ is allocated to PJ. So instead of wasting the time, what I can do, I can forcibly remove the resources from process PI. I can allocate the resources to other process that is needed the resources. Then after some time, I can allocate the RJ to process PI. Thereby, here I can forcibly remove the resources. No preemption can be eliminated here. What I am doing here, I am forcibly removing the resources from the process PI because now I can't allocate RJ to PI. The time will be wasted. Instead of that, I can remove the resources from PI. I can allocate the resources to the other processes that are needed the resources. Then after some time, I can allocate RJ to PI. Right? This is the first case. Here I can forcibly remove the resources of process PI. In the second case, you can see here process PI is requesting RJ, but RJ is allocated to PJ. Now you can see, but PJ is requesting the resource RK. PJ is requesting the resource RK. So if you allocate the resource RJ to PI, obviously the PI can finish its execution, right? So RJ is there with PJ. What I will do means I will deallocate. I will forcibly remove the resource RJ. I will forcibly remove the resource RJ and I will allocate RJ to PI because PJ is waiting for RK. So I can do that. So if I will forcibly remove the resource RJ and I will allocate that RJ to PI. So once the PI can complete the execution now, right? Because I am allocating the RJ to PI. Once the execution of PI is completed, I can deallocate the RJ also and I can deallocate other resources of PI also. Then I can allocate RJ to PJ. Then I can allocate RJ to PJ. Thereby, PJ can continue its execution by acquiring the RK. Getting, guys? In the first case, what I did, I forcibly removed the resources from process PI and allocated the resources to the processes that needed the resource. After some time, I can allocate RJ to PI. Once the PJ completed it execution, I can allocate the RJ to PI. So I forcibly removed the process PI. Here, PJ is waiting for the RK resources, right? That's why I removed the RJ from PJ and I allocated to PI. Once the PI is completed the execution, I can now deallocate the RJ and also all the resources of PI. Then I'll allocate RJ to PJ and RK can also be allocated to PJ. So here what I did, I forcibly removed RJ. In the first case I forcibly removed PI. In the second case I forcibly removed PJ. Resources of PJ. Right? So no preemption can be eliminated. So no preemption tells that you can't release the resource. But what I did here, I released the resource and I utilized that resource for the other processes. So no preemption can be eliminated here. Right? So mutual exclusion can't be eliminated, but no preemption can be eliminated. And the the second condition, volt and weight, can also be eliminated. Now, last condition, circular weight. So what is a circular weight? So see this diagram here. So P1, right, is already holding the resource R1, but it is waiting for R2. P2 is holding the resource R2, but is waiting for the resource R1. Here the processes are waiting in a circular fashion. You can see there, right? P1 is waiting for R2, P2 is waiting for R1, but P1 is holding R1 and P2 is holding R2. So this is the circular weight. Now, is it possible to eliminate circular weight or not? See here. So here I am considering a mapping function. Your operating system uses a mapping function called f tends to see here f is equal to r tends to n. F is equal to r tends to n. So here r is a resource type, n is a integer. So for each resource type, I am going to assign a integer number. For example, for a resource type printer, I can assign an integer 1. For a resource type RAM, I can assign an integer 2. Understanding, guys? So this is a mapping function I'm using here. So I'm assigning for integer for each resource type here. So for printer I assigned 1 here, for RAM I assigned 2. It is an example. So here, see here the process is holding Ri, the process is holding the Ri, resource Ri, and can request for Rj. Very simple, guys. Here assume that the process is holding the resource Ri and it can request for another resource Rj only if the condition satisfies. What is that condition? F of Rj should be greater than F of Ri. Only if this condition f of Rj greater than f of Ri satisfies, then only the process can request the resource Rj, right? Even if it's holding the resource Ri also. See here, for example, here process P1 needs 3 resources. What are those 3 resources? R5, R1, R9. Now what I will do means, I have to satisfy this condition, right? So if you satisfy this condition, you can eliminate the circular weight. So what is that condition? F of Rj greater than f of Ri. See here. So here the process should request the resource in incremental order. Process should request the resource in incremental order. I need to allocate the resource in incremental order. How it is? See here. So incremental order means, see, process needs how many resources? 3 resources. First, it should request f of R1 because this is the smallest number. How many resources are there here? Only one resource is there. First, it should request f of R1. Now, next it should request R5. Next highest number of resources, R5. So condition is what? F of Rj is greater than f of Ri. Now what is the resource you are requesting? R5. You can see here R5 is greater than f of R1. Condition satisfied. F of Rj is f of R5, f of Ri is R1. So f of Rj is greater than f of Ri. So see, f of R5 is greater than f of R1. First I requested R1, then I requested f of R5. So condition satisfied here. F of R5 is greater than f of R1. This is nothing but an incremental order. First I requested f of R1, then I am requesting f of R5. Next, what is the last resource? F of R9. Now see, I am requesting the f of R9. Last resource. See, condition satisfied here also. F of R9 is greater than f of R5. Again, f of R5 is greater than f of R1. Getting, guys? So whatever the resource I am requesting, that is f of Rj, here f of R9 is greater than f of R5, the previous resource. And again, you can see f of R5 is greater than f of R1, the first resource. It is, I am requesting the resource in incremental order. Condition satisfied here, you can see. So if you allocate the resources in incremental order, we can eliminate the circular weight. right? Getting, guys? If you allocate the resources in this approach, I can eliminate the circular weight. Now, so to for the deadlock to be prevented, you need to eliminate any one of these four conditions. If any one of these four conditions is eliminated, you can prevent a deadlock. Here I check, sorry, these four conditions, right? Mutual exclusion, world end weight, and no preemption and circular weight. So here I tested all the conditions. So mutual exclusion can't be eliminated, world end weight can be eliminated, no preemption can be eliminated, circular weight can be eliminated. So if you eliminate this, any one of these condition, you can prevent a deadlock, right, guys? So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching the video.